Good day to you. I am Vicky Quinn Fraser of Moxie Books, and this is episode one of What the Book, in which I am going to share some. Yeah, but first I'm going to freak out because I can't work out how to use this technology. Um, so, yeah, let's rewind. Good day to you. I'm Vicky Quinn Fraser of Moxie Books, and this is episode one of What the Book, in which I am going to share some, I don't know, hints, tips, experiences from my life as a nonfiction writer and book coach. And I'm going to bust some myths. And episode one today is entitled Motivational BS because that's what I'm going to be talking about. So, first of all, how you doing? How you doing today? Hope you're well. Drop a comment in whatever social media channel you happen to be on. I literally don't know how this technology works yet, so I have no idea where I'm actually going live. Um, We'll find out afterwards. Yeah, say hi. I would love to hear from you. I probably won't see any of your comments afterwards because of my aforementioned issues with technology. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. But yeah, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the flash of inspiration because it's, I think, largely BS. And I think the romantic poets have an awful lot to answer for because they have kind of perpetuated this myth of inspiration being showered upon us from on high, from like divine muses and heavenly bodies, and inspiration sleeting through the ether and kind of smashing into our brains and giving us ideas. And although that is sometimes what it can feel like, I can guarantee you that is not what's actually happening. And if you sit there and wait for that to happen, that's a real recipe for never getting anything done. One of my favorite quotes from Stephen King: amateurs sit and wait for inspiration, and the rest of us just get up and go to work. Somebody else said, and I cannot remember who, but very famous author, said, I only write when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every morning at 9 a.m. And that is the key. This is the key to getting your book written or even starting your book. It's not enough to be inspired or to sit and wait for inspiration. You've got to go out there and find it. And inspiration comes from being really, really interested in everything. Inspiration is a thing, it's not a myth, but waiting for inspiration to come from outside is. So, the good news, though, is that you can be as creative as you want to be, which means you are in control of whether or not you have good or bad ideas. And I actually think there are very few bad ideas. There are only ideas that we can play with. So yeah, don't expect your muse to show up because your muse won't show up. Your muse is a bastard. You've got to put the work in. We are all creative. If you think creativity is solely the preserve of artists, musicians, and poets, you're going to be in for a big disappointment. And also is incorrect. The biggest problems in the world have been solved through creative thinking. The biggest advances in technology, science, and engineering have happened because of creativity. You do have a creative mind, I promise you that. We've just got to wake it up. So, what I wanted to do today was remind you of that you are creative. Creativity is within you. You don't have to wait for inspiration to strike to get started, because if you are going to wait for inspiration to strike to get started, you're going to die of old age before anything ever happens, before anything creative comes out of your brain. So when you're feeling like, oh, I don't know what to write about, I don't feel inspired to write, I don't feel motivated to write, and we'll come back to that in a sec, I would really like you to go read something, change your state, go out for a walk, do a little dance, play a piece of music, spin around in circles, whatever it is that kind of floats your boat and gets you out of the kind of funk of sitting and going, ugh, I don't know what to do. Get yourself out of that position and change your state. Remember what you're interested in. Have a play, have a scribble, like just get a piece of paper or a journal or whatever it is that you do your work in and scribble with felt tip pens. Take yourself back to primary school. Remember when you didn't care what anybody thought of you? Try and channel some of that, because nobody's going to see what you're doing right now. So have a little bit of a play with paper, with pens, with voice notes, with video, with whatever it is that you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't know what to write about. I kind of wanted to write about this and now I feel stuck. Read, input, change state, and then have a play on paper. Okay, I mentioned motivation because that is the title of the episode, Motivational BS. Okay, motivation, the motivation myth. And the motivation myth is that we have to be motivated before we take action. That is backwards. That's not how motivation works. Motivation comes from doing the thing. And if you've ever, like, I'm sure everybody has been here, but I can give you an example from my real life, not related to writing. Me and my husband are renovating a cottage. It's made of spider webs and hope. It's an absolute money pit. It's also a delight. We're learning an awful lot, but sometimes we'll be like, ugh, we've got to, for example, knock down a wall today. And understandably, that's like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's going to create this enormous mess and it's going to be horrific and blah, blah, blah. And so we'll like do literally everything else other than the thing that we're, the wall knocking down that we're going to do. Funny thing happens though, when we actually drag ourselves to do it, pick up the sledgehammer or whatever and take the first swing at the wall, the act of doing that first thing is really motivational. And we're like, oh, I've started. Inertia is one of the strongest forces in the universe. It's like it's really hard to get something moving from a static state. Physics tells us that. That also works for our brains. It's really hard to go from a standing start to like a full sprint. It's really hard to get started at all. It's like, you know what it's like if you have a ball at the top of a hill, it'll just sit there. It'll sit there. If you give it the tiniest little poke, it'll pick up momentum as it rolls down the hill. And that analogy is not a bad one for starting whatever piece of writing you want to do. So what is the absolute tiniest thing that you can do today to get started? Do that. Even if it's just, I'm going to write the letter A. You might find that that's enough to get you started. So that is episode 1 of What the Book, Motivational BS. Hope you have found it interesting / helpful. Would love to hear what your biggest takeaway is from that. Would love to hear if it's going to help you get started on writing your book. And so I'm just looking at my notes here. And if you can, tag someone who you know has been talking about writing a book. If you know someone who's like, oh, I'm going to write a book, but they actually haven't done it yet. And if that's you, I see you. I've been you. Tag that person. Tag them into this video. Have them watch it. Maybe it'll help them get started. I'll be back more or less this time next week, maybe a little bit more tech savvy, with episode 2 of What the Book. Good day to you.